This is A World on Purpose.
A purposeful life is the most important kind and the most valuable kind of life.
Every choice that we make makes a difference, for better or worse.
I loved walking in a village and seeing the before and after.
This is the podcast dedicated to those humans choosing to live larger by working for the greater good. And these are their stories. Stories of hope and of true change that come from living on purpose.
What if you were to suddenly say there are no challenges, there are only opportunities?
Regardless of where you come from, your financial identity should determine where you end up in life.
I'm your host, Alyssa Fisher-Harris, and my hope is that my inspiring guests will take you on an introspective journey that helps you tap into your own pivot to purpose, bringing greater meaning to your life. Welcome to A World on Purpose. Hey everyone, welcome back to A World on Purpose with me, your ever consummate, excited, enthusiastic, and super, super fun, I hope you think, host, Alyssa Fisher-Harris. I'm going to dive a little bit into my guest today to give you a little snippet, a little snapshot of who she is. And you're going to love this woman. You know that my mission, I keep talking about it all the time, is to bring you these awesome people that I just feel like have these amazing stories that can help inspire us in different ways to live our life with purpose, for purpose, and on purpose. And today I have Miss KRISTA KLEINER. And KRISTA dives in the interview into some really, really deep things. Besides her background, which I'll tell you in just a second. In the interview, we get to talk about some very personal things that apparently she hasn't shared yet with people, which I am deeply grateful and so thrilled that she felt safe enough. Thank you, KRISTA, for telling me that afterwards, that you felt safe enough to share some of those things with me in the show so that people could really understand and learn how to get through adversity and do what I have done and what a lot of these other people have done, which is take that adversity, channel it into vehicles for good in a world on purpose, and do something greater than yourself. KRISTA is stunning inside and out. And I don't just mean that because I can see it. Actually, she was selected as Miss Philippines International, which says a lot because if you go into a beauty pageant contest, that actually is saying something, that you are being selected by a group of people who believe that you are that beauty inside and out, that intelligence, that bright spirit that can represent a whole country. So not only was she Miss Philippines International, she's now a humanitarian and founder of an organization called the One Heart Movement. She's part Filipino and part American, and she talks in the interview about this incredible experience she had as a young child, as early as the age of 2, with her mom taking her to the Philippines and really showing her what life was definitely not like when she grew up as a child in, California with a much more privileged background. That really inspired her to want to do something good in the world and to want to help lift humanity. And so she took a huge leap of faith and a chance to actually go back to the Philippines. And she'll talk about this in the interview when she was 18, to take a job in entertainment and television, and channeled and funneled that into a career of doing really good things and leveraging that influence to do those good things in the world. I'm really excited for you to meet her. This One Heart movement, she started during COVID and describes why she started it in the middle of the pandemic as a way to help people organize around the thoughts of love and community and being able to lift each other up, which is so important in what we're facing in the world. So many of us have one theme in common, and we're all human, and we all have the ability to do good things. We all have the ability to experience adversity. No one is immune to that. And so the idea that she created this movement, and she's been doing some really tangible, incredible work around community and around sharing our hearts and our souls to do these good things, you're going to be very inspired to hear. So without further ado, as I always say, please join me in my amazing interview with Miss KRISTA KLEINER, founder of One Heart Movement. Good day, good evening, and good afternoon, everyone, wherever you are in the world, living in the world on purpose. I'm your host, Alyssa Fisher-Harris, and thank you for coming back again, as you do always, to listen to these incredibly, wonderful, inspiring, I call them our purpose change-making heroes you don't know but should, that are doing something for the greater good. It just warms my heart that you tune in every day and get to listen to these amazing people that I'm so blessed to get to know through various avenues of my life. And today is no exception. I'm super jazzed to be bringing you this woman who just blew me away when I was introduced to her through a mutual contact we have Miss Nicole Rodriguez and her team at NRPR Group. Today, my guest is KRISTA KLEINER, and she is founder of the One Heart movement and has such a captivating story, a captivating spirit, and just this desire to live. Truthfully, she is the example of living in a world on purpose. So please welcome my guest today, Miss KRISTA KLEINER. KRISTA, welcome to A World on Purpose.
Gosh, Alyssa, thank you for that intro. You're going to have me crying before we even start. I forgot my box of tissues.
I'm trying my Oprah moves to see if I can get people to cry.
Well, it's working. I'm teary-eyed already. So
Thanks.
That was so touching. I really
Yeah.
appreciate you seeing me in that way and so warmly welcoming me to your show, which I am a fan of because I really value this type of work. I feel like sharing these types of stories will just continue to empower and inspire people. So thank you for having me and doing what you do.
Oh my God, I am so honored for you to be here, especially because whenever I get the chance to have somebody that also is a professional in the entertainment industry, it makes me a little nervous. And it also makes me quite honored that you would take a chance on me in this show. So thank you so much for doing that. Yeah, I'm excited to get started with your story because it's really remarkable. And obviously I introduced you as the founder of the One Heart Foundation, but you are multi-layered, multifaceted. There's so much more to the work that you do. And the story behind you is very heartwarming. So as you know, we like to begin the show with what I call your purpose origin story. And you get to tell in your own words how you got to this place of living in a world on purpose. So would you please kindly share who KRISTA KLEINER is and where you came from and how you got here?
Of course. Well, it really starts with my family, my parents. My mother is from the Philippines, moved here shortly before she had me to California, that is. I was a teacher, really into helping people. And my father, American, is a college professor and expert witness in different fields to stand up for people in situations of harassment and discrimination and things like this. So I grew up with an incredible family, and my parents being teachers and teaching me to learn to I learned to appreciate learning at a very young age and very open to all types of forms of learning. And part of that included my travels to the Philippines since I was 2. And I have this very clear memory, 6 years old, where my mother brought me to a children's hospital, a National Children's Hospital in Manila. And my aunt was a nurse there. And after seeing how the children struggling, both in the hospital and in the streets, it gave me this perspective that I've carried throughout my whole life, that while we live very comfortably in California and have so many things that we can take for granted, there are things to really be grateful for because not everyone has even the most basic things. And I remember turning to my mom at 6 years old after this experience and telling her I wanted to help and how could I help. And she looked back at me in the car and she said, do well in life and then you can help, to be able to help essentially. And so I've carried that really deep desire to be able to have a large impact on as many people as I can throughout my life. And yes, I've dabbled in so many different things and and jumped at experiences. I think it's it's a really important part of life to have a lot of experiences, to go through ups and downs, because it's in the challenging moments when we're pushing ourselves in the uncomfortability that the most learning happens, in my opinion. So I spent a really good time, more than a decade doing that. And I feel now it's come to a point where I'm bringing in together all this experience, all these lessons, all these relationships with a lot more clarity on having this impact that I've always wanted to have.
Right. And that goes back to, thank you for sharing that, by the way. I do think when you see something that shows you some serious adversity at a young age, it can't help but leave an imprint on your heart and your soul, hence probably the name of your organization. But even still, you shared with me when we first spoke, which was so wonderful, that, you took a bunch of risks in your life and your career, which I think a lot of people who are taking the purpose route or the entrepreneurial route and things like that, they do take risk, and they take risk for the purpose, no pun intended, of trying to find themselves and figure out what their purpose is in life. And you experienced some adversity through that, some challenges of like, poverty and, having some homelessness like I did as a child. Can you talk a little bit about that so that I love for people to understand some of the adversities that people go through, because it can be scary to step into purpose sometimes. And like, you're such an inspiration that you came out of it. And we're going to talk about your beauty pageant winnings and all these other things that you did. But let's talk about those risks first and what that was for you, that experience.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, similar to, sadly, to a lot of other women, I experienced a lot of sexual assault and abuse and inappropriate things in that area since I was really young, in elementary school. And many times I would be afraid to put myself out there in situations because I would get re-traumatized, or I didn't know how to hold boundaries and things like this. So just the act of continuing to be brave enough to try, I think, was a really big thing for me. But getting better at being mindful to listen to my intuition. That was really important. And to not be afraid to say no or stop or leave situations, having this belief in myself that I'll be okay if I have to walk away from this. Another thing was choosing to move to the Philippines and support myself at 18 rather than having my wonderful family pay for college and my apartment and cars and everything, largely because not only was I accepting a job opportunity there, but when I was in the Philippines for this first couple months, I realized I had so much more to learn. And outside of a classroom setting, there's different types of learning, right? And to be with people who know how to be happy with so little, that was a really important lesson that I chased after. And so being okay to be uncomfortable in a new country with different customs and cultures and things was a big risk that I took, but I grew so much from that experience and became such a better human being and the challenges that faced. And of course, being in entertainment in itself had a lot of its own challenges, being under the spotlight, having tabloids writing about me, having my personal life known to my family across the United States when I'm in the Philippines before I even knew what was going on. Right. Things like this. The pageant world introduced its own challenges as well, with this hyperfixation on inches, for each body part, like parts of my body. And so my body image issues came up during that time. Definitely a lot of heartbreaks and things. But again, I think it's the mentality of just not giving up and not taking the hits so hard. For me, it was when I was able to look at challenging moments as an opportunity to learn and grow, I kind of took that power back from things and was able to see jumps in my growth and progress in those moments. And I think that was a really big lesson for me.
Yeah. And my God, how insightful for you to even think that way at the age of 18, when most people are like, yeah, I'm out of high school, let's go have fun, or let's whatever. You made a very conscious decision to take care of that for you. That was remarkable. I want to talk a little bit about that moment where you go to the Philippines. You decide you're going to really expose yourself to something you had only seen as a child. What were some of the things that you witnessed going from the child and visualizing those things? What were some of the things you got involved in, sort of the tangible impact you were able to make when you were living and working there more as an adult now? And how did that fuel this decision? I want to get into the beauty pageant decision, because that takes a lot of guts to put no matter what opinions people might feel about certain things about beauty pageants or whatever. We'll talk about that a little too. It takes a lot of guts to put yourself out there in a venue that you feel is going to help propel your mission and your vision. So let's talk a little bit first about some of the tangible impact that you made helping living in the Philippines, and then we can jump into that, and then we'll obviously get into all of this building up to the One Heart movement.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was wonderful to have a platform to work from, being on television. That really opened up a lot of doors for me. I had always been passionate about children, as I mentioned earlier. I was always the kid taking care of kids growing up. So once I was there, when I had the time, I would be going to, for example, children's cancer wards and just spending time with them and letting them know that someone's there to listen to them, to laugh with them, to play with them. And that was really special. I became an ambassador and a spokesperson for a number of different organizations over the years. And this includes, they had a Red Whistle campaign to spread awareness for HIV out in the Philippines, because it's really taboo to speak about even having sex before marriage.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
I thought, well, since I'm half American, I'm happy to step up and do this uncomfortable work. A lot of things through the Miss Philippines Foundation as well, in supporting underprivileged children and families. We helped build homes for them. I've done a lot of food packing things when there's natural disasters. There's a lot typhoon seasons every year in the Philippines. So working telephone hotlines and trying to get people help, these sorts of things. But, even after the Miss Philippines, I went on to represent the National Diversity Coalition here in the United States, and doing work for Stop Hunger Now and different women's groups. So I would just see, what I could do and things that were in my circle, and really jumped at the opportunity to be able to help in any way.
And which came first, the television work or the Miss Philippines pageant?
The television work. So I was 16 and I was offered a network contract, and I said no, because I was in school. I was totally out of my my thought to jump into entertainment. I'd always loved performing. I started dancing at 4 and singing. I mean, Filipinos sing and dance at every party. I think I told you this before. It's a prerequisite to be Filipino to sing.
That's right.
To me, it was just for fun. But with the different things I was doing with modeling and such, this wonderful opportunity came about. And it wasn't until I was in my first year of college and a boy broke my heart that I started to think differently, and it was the best gift that could have happened to me, because at the time I was doing his homework for him for one of his classes to get grades to make his crazy dream come true. And when this happened, it got me to ask a better question that I never asked myself. What is my crazy dream? If I were to put my efforts behind, and take a risk. And so again, it's so interesting that, I had this fear of challenging times for so long, but once I was able to see that so much good came out of them, then I'm like, yeah, I'll try it. I'll try this, and let's see what happens. So.
That's awesome. And then obviously, so that got you, at 16, that's amazing that you got noticed. And then they saw a gift and a talent in you. And so you took that leap of faith, went over there, did this amazing career. And then that segued into competing in the Miss Philippines pageant, correct? Let's talk about that a little bit. What inspired that and why? What was it about that particular next chapter that motivated you to want to be involved?
To be honest, I've always had mixed feelings about pageants, and it was actually suggested to me to join when I first moved out there, as I was getting into TV hosting and acting and performing. And I said no, because a part of me was this dancer that believed in more camaraderie of women instead of competing, and being artistic rather than being in a bikini, that sort of thing. But 2 years or so later, I found myself in a very interesting pickle. If we could still use that phrase, right?
Sure, why not?
And my management was having issues with the network. And it got complicated. I won't get into all the details, but essentially, because of those internal issues that were needing to be resolved, my career was very much slowed down, almost to a stop. Like I went from having multiple shows to having no work for a couple months. I didn't know what was going on.
Wow.
And when I finally found out what was going on, I basically was in this delicate situation where I couldn't work for another year and a half till the contract let up, or until they resolved it, which didn't look like it would be sooner. And I had signed a bad contract. I didn't have my own lawyer, kind of strict. And so I was locked out from doing television, radio, print, film, theater, everything. And I thought, well, gosh, my options to go back to the States and go back to school, because I'm not here in the Philippines to not do anything. And part of me just felt like I wasn't finished. I wasn't finished with what I needed to do there and learn and grow. And then a friend of mine, a manager, had the newspaper, and he said, look, this Philippines pageant, like they're doing last day of auditions tomorrow. Why don't you just do it? That's not in the contract. Mm-hmm. And so it was actually more of this fighting spirit of not wanting to give up. Mm-hmm. And finding a way that got me to consider it. And then through it, I found and so many great parts of it that I hadn't really understood until that point.
Yeah. And let's talk about that a little bit. Congratulations, by the way, on that win and taking that step. Because, as a woman, we are judged quite often on our looks and our bodies. And it puts a lot of pressure on us, especially if you want to be in the entertainment industry. You want to do a good job in life, and any job too. It's a little bit different for women than it is for men, not to, vilify any particular gender or type
it's
of.
Totally
yeah, exactly. But, I grew up watching pageants as a kid, and I was amazed. And I always thought, oh my God, how can these women, to me, I felt like they were beautiful and they were graceful and they were putting themselves out there in a risk that I certainly was not willing to take. And I would love to talk just a little bit, because I think that there is, unfortunately, kind of sometimes people can get a negative spin around the idea of beauty pageants, but really on the inside, and I've spoken to other women who've been in the pageants in the past, there are opportunities that really do come out of it. Scholarships and the ability to help people and all the different things that you want to do. Can you talk about the positive aspects of it just for people to understand? Because it really did help you be able to do some really great things.
Absolutely. And I'll say this probably applies to most things in life, that situations are what we make of it. Right. And so very similarly to pageants, it could be superficial and very basic in surface. But like you said, it can be so much more. And so I'm grateful that I got to see the beautiful parts of it through this experience. I got a lot of exposure. My name got out there, and it gave me a platform to work from. During the pageant itself, I had the opportunity to be introduced to Julio Iglesias right after I won Miss Philippines, and then he invited me on a world tour, and so I got to see the world through him and be introduced as a special guest as Miss Philippines.
Wow,
that's an experience that I could have never dreamed of having, and I wouldn't have had that had I not put myself out there and pushed myself to grow in that experience. I definitely matured a lot during the training for it. I started preparing for Q&A, printed the top 100 questions that pageants ask. But not only was I preparing for the pageant, but I was getting to know myself. I'm asking myself that I had it. And so that process gave me more clarity about who I am, what I want, this sort of thing. It taught me how to be graceful in a gown. It taught me how to, these different walks are kind of hilarious, right? There's a bathing suit walk, there's a gown walk, and how to be in public places with grace and talk to strangers and answer questions. It's training in so many ways. And what I've taken out in the world and doing other work, but the credibility that's come along with it has really been impactful, because that title still means something to a lot of people. This representation, people feel like, oh, I've kind of been vetted, and this sort of thing. So it gets me a foot in the door oftentimes, or at least a door open. And then it's all about having that intention and actionable things that people can support and get behind. So it doesn't stop there, but it's definitely a good step. And it's tied me forever to the Philippines and the Filipinos all around the world, not only, through the title, but my sense of responsibility to support in any way I can. And the love I get from people also is incredible. So it's very mutual in this uplifting of each other. And I think drives this bigger idea home of thinking outside of ourselves, right? That was the big thing for me. It's not, oh, I'm Miss Philippines, I have a crown, yay, look at me. It was more, oh shit, sorry for my French.
So we can bleep it.
Holy like cow, I have a big sense of responsibility. I'm representing a whole country, and it's people, and I have the opportunity to show them in a positive light. And I took that really seriously. So at 20, turning to 21, I was really mindful. It's funny because my friends were just starting to drink in the US. I knew like I had to hide drinks in photos, you know, I would certain image. And so it definitely taught me so many lessons. I got to meet women from all over the world when I went to Miss International and appreciate their cultures and things. And I think it really inspired this deeper passion in me to help share different cultures with people. Because I think that's a foundation to understanding and compassion and unity. So
I agree.
I can go on and on, but that's a little bit.
No, I love it. I think it's important to call that out because it is easy to, unfortunately, judge those kinds of things in a negative light. And what I love is obviously that the pageant world is changing since you were there too, right? I mean, I think they're having transgender contestants and winners and a lot of wonderful things that they're starting to recognize. We are not all just one way of being in the world. There are multi parts of our lives and who we are as people, period. Yeah. And so you must be really happy with some of the changes that the pageant world is making right now, these positive, impactful changes. I really am. I think if we can always keep an eye out for ways we can improve on a personal level, and in the organizations and different traditions that we have, that's really an important part of our growth. Definitely. So that is amazing that you've been able to do all this stuff, and it's super exciting. And as you were, you know, kind of making this trajectory of your life path and having these ups and downs, like many of us in this space have had, you came across this idea. Let's talk about the One Heart movement now, because I really want to dive deep into that and what it's doing. And this is like now your baby. You're on a mission with this thing. You're the executive producer. You're running the whole thing, executive director. And let's talk about what made you come up with this idea and what you're trying to do with it. Absolutely. Really short and sweet is it was the pandemic. Slowing everything down enough for me to really feel into what was going on in the world. And it broke my heart to see the divide at a time where I thought that we should be coming together through this really challenging shared experience. And it just didn't make sense to me, and it really hurt me. And it was watching the news and seeing nurses sharing really heartbreaking stories of loss and struggle that made me feel this call to action. And I started doing research. I started reaching out to people, making decks with ideas and information and things. And through that process, I got more and more clear on what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to support nurses and healthcare workers. Filipino American nurses were taking a really hard hit here in the States. And I initially wanted to step up in support of Filipino nurses around the world who were taking a brunt of the impact. But then I quickly realized that to honor them in their spirit and the lives that we've lost, that it was to act in their spirit. And that was to help as many people as we can. And so that's when I started to think bigger. And the nonprofit, the One Heart movement, our mission is to foster unity and well-being through the power of community love. And it's broad intentionally so that we can get behind many different causes in groups as what seems most relevant or what's needed. And we started supporting healthcare workers. I was doing hospital giftings, meeting nurses and health workers coming in and out of their shifts with balloons and flowers and just acts of kindness and showing gratitude. Very simple,
way to start, in tandem with a social media campaign called the One Heart Handoff, where we invited people to start and end a video with their hands in the universal symbol of love in the shape of the heart. And they, at first it was dancing and speak your heart and take a photo, whatever, but just show us your heart, and spreading positivity on social media. And that was really special. We created, it's just, you can see on the page the different types of age groups and people in different countries. And it just blew my mind. And it's such a powerful image in itself just to see this. And so the basic idea is really, if we come together and we unify, we can tackle the obstacles that we have. But that's just to me, the foundation of growth and progress for any of our challenges. And well-being to me is so important, because how can we help others if we're not well?
Absolutely.
How can, and so being mindful of our mental health, our physical health, our financial, emotional, all of it, and seeing how we can work to support people with that. And then the community love part of this equation through community love, to me, is a reminder that we have the power to make impact, even if it's just a smile to someone or a heart sign, just put good vibes out there. But also to remind us that we're part of a global community. We are all on this earth together. And if we just remind ourselves of that and remind ourselves of the power that we have to uplift each other, that our world would be a much better place. So,
yeah, it's beautiful. It obviously resonated really well with people, because you got something like outstandingly like 20 million hits on social media from this thing, didn't you? And some big TikTokers following you. And
yeah, it was really heartwarming to see people jump up at the opportunity to show their support for not only healthcare workers, but just message of unity. And oftentimes I feel like most people want to do good, but sometimes people just don't know how, or they haven't thought about it. And so we did what we could to present an idea to them as a means to channel the good in their heart that they already have. And so it's really much, for me, a reflection that even though the world is going through hard times and the media and social media can be depressing or upsetting and things, there is still a lot of good. And we should just do our best to rally around that, to amplify that.
absolutely. Obviously, I agree with you. That's the whole reason I created this show, was to show people that it can be one act of kindness and purpose all the way up to, hundreds of millions, which you're actually looking to do with One Heart Foundation. You described to me one of your goals. I'd love to talk about some of the vision for the foundation and for, maybe 5 years down the road. But one of the things you had mentioned to me was 1 million trees being planted. And I'd love to know about that, because that's another campaign that's going to be coming up, right? Or did it start already?
Actually, on World Environment Day on June 5th, we launched the One Heart Forest Initiative. We started by establishing a forest with 44,000 trees, one on behalf of every child who lost a parent in the U.S. to COVID, 40,000, and one for every healthcare worker we lost in the U.S., just to create some awareness in tandem with this environmental campaign. And our goal is actually to plant 4 million trees on behalf of every life lost to COVID around the world. And it's the symbolic gesture to remind everybody that we went through this collectively, while honoring those we've lost and showing our commitment to take care of all life on Earth. We've all been really distracted by the pandemic, but our environmental issues have not gone away. And we can feel the heat waves and the fires and everything's, happening. And so a big part of the vision with this is to bridge the gap between our environmental issues to human connection. I think it's been a big struggle in the environmental, with environmentalists to connect people with this. And so we thought this was an opportunity to do that. And we are planting this forest in Tanzania, which is the largest population of elephants, the highest mountain in Africa, second world's largest, like all these amazing things that I've come to learn, because the deforestation there is actually really bad. And to me, this project is like the rainbow cake, with all the different layers of things. Because there's just more and more good that comes from it. 90% of the people planting this forest are women. And as many of us know, in developing countries, it can be really hard for women to get work. And so we're empowering them through this process. They are in turn using this money to put their children in green schools programs. So we're setting up the next generation with education around important concepts. And it also supports all 17 of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So that is our big initiative right now. And things are happening so quickly. I've already have more since I last spoke with you in terms of mental health and a film with Deepak Chopra and a TV series and stuff. So
wow.
To me, the One Heart, we'd like to offer is so many different ways for people to get involved and support and finding something that's right for them. So,
oh my gosh, that is so cool.
Is just one.
Well, and obviously we'll make sure that everybody knows how to contact and get involved with this on our website, and we'll direct everybody to yours as well. But I think that's super. Are you also looking into, obviously your heart, part of your heart, no pun intended, is in the Philippines, as you had mentioned, is because of your own background. You know, one of the worst places, obviously, in the world for climate crisis and trash, especially, is in the Philippines. Is that something that's near and dear to your heart that you're hoping that your organization can help remedy? Because some of the documentaries I've seen on it is just absolutely gut wrenching to see what happens there. Yeah,
it really is. And so much of my purpose, right, was the experience living there and feeling into that 100%. Actually, before I started the One Heart movement, I was approached by the Philippines Foundation. This lovely couple runs it out here from California, but they go back and forth. And they asked me to be an ambassador and a board member. And so through that, we plan to help rebuild the coral reef in the Philippines. And one of the husband of this wonderful couple, Trevor, is developed, he has a company that's being able to renewable energy and using the trash to create energy. So there's a lot of great people stepping up, and yes, I am very passionate to help in any way I can.
That's great. And it's going to take that. It's going to take the village, as they say, of people in intelligent spaces with green tech and these wonderful ideas. I absolutely love the using trash as energy regeneration. I just think it's so smart.
Yeah.
It'll be exciting to see where that all goes.
That'll be huge. I'll keep you posted on that.
Please do. And I mean, this whole thing with Deepak Chopra and this TV show, I mean, that's great. Is there anything you can tell us, or are you sworn to secrecy?
It's a little early for the show details, but the film, we're being approached to screen it at Life is Beautiful in September. Since I'm a host and the One Heart Movement is a presenting partner for the Asian World Film Festival, we're looking also at showing it there in November. I'm so sorry. I don't know how to disconnect the phone from my computer.
Technology, it's okay.
I have my phone on airplane mode and my computer accepting these calls.
We have very understanding guests. We're living in a world of technical difficulties on a regular basis, so no worries.
Thank you. Hopefully we can cut that out. But sorry, I totally lost my train of thought. What were we talking
You were talking about the TV show with Deepak Chopra and this the Asian American Film Festival, I think.
So screening it, Life is Beautiful in Asian World Film Festival. So it's a very powerful fiction story about a woman based on true events, of a mother who lost her son to suicide, and really gets into this being a very large taboo, but it's the second leading cause of death in America for people between 10 or 15 to 35, and so shedding some light on this situation from different angles with the expertise of Deepak Chopra and supported by his foundation. We have Michael Beckwith in the film as well. So it's very powerful. And again, relates to mental health, something that we've spoken about before, right? Just being able to have this awareness of people going through hard times. And right now is a very tough time for people. And so I'm very happy that we can support that. The series would get into supporting following people in different situations or industries in stressful moments, and similarly giving them these tools to test, to keep calm in these moments, to help with dealing with this. So I'll have to circle back with you in more details, but
I am so happy to hear that, because I have firsthand experience with that in my life, and with family. And I think and people that I know, just especially going through COVID, like a lot of friends, a lot of colleagues, people struggling with mental health, I think it came to an all-time escalating high. And the stigma that is unfortunately around it, it's terrible. And so I love that you're focusing on that, because I think the more we talk about it, the more we destigmatize it, and we let people get the tools that they need for help, because they realize it's a strength and not a weakness to do that.
It's really well said. It starts with just opening the conversation about it, making it less of a thing, because I feel most people are afraid to share that when it happens in the family. And my thought about that is, well, how can you heal if you feel like you're lying to people and yourself, and instead of being able to get support from it. And so we're hoping to break down some of those barriers, as you said, with the film, and then continue the conversation about mental health, and while giving tools for different industries, so it's more applicable to anybody.
That's great. Did you find, when you were going through some of those challenges that you were describing to me at one point, especially I'm a victim also of sexual assault, and I mean, having that happen repeatedly, what did you do? Did you experience some of that yourself? Some, mental health struggles? Did you realize that you were experiencing it?
Yeah, I don't know if I realized it at the time, but there was definitely periods in the Philippines where I felt really isolated. I felt homesick. I missed my family. And I was going through what to me seems like, waves of depression. Of course, I fought an eating disorder for a bit. I don't even talk to my family about this. Yeah. And then one of the real hard times for me was after a divorce. And I'd gone through an assault from a boyfriend before that. So to me, it all kind of bundled together. I wasn't healed until I was making poor decisions, because I was coming from a place of unresolved and hurt. And so I do think it's really important that we continue this conversation to help people be more aware of what we're experiencing, what we're feeling, so that we can get the support that we need to get back in a more steady place, and we can cut the cycle and start fresh. And it really starts with being able to notice it in ourselves and be able to address it. So I'm really glad to see a lot of people getting behind mental health awareness and action.
Yeah.
And it's just the beginning. Again, we have to, I think, do more so that we can make a significant pivot.
I agree with you. I really hope that, from a global standpoint, also even in business and corporations, they're starting to talk about mental health more, and people honoring mental health days instead of sick days, being able to speak up and say, I need a mental health day. I need to take care of my mental health. That's terrific. What are some of your goals with you've talked a little bit about some of the things you are working on, but when you think about yourself and the One Heart movement, 5 years, 10 years from now, what are you hoping that looks like?
I hope that we'll continue to grow this community that we have to be a force of good in the world, and to be able to mobilize this group to support the most relevant causes of our time, and really spread this, the resources, the support, and everything to have as much impact as we can across many different fields. And so it's a baby right now, but I can already feel the power behind people having this sense of community to do good. And so just want to continue doing that.
I think that's great. And, you mentioned that, being a person of influence obviously helps you further your mission and goals in life. But if you're not a person of influence, what would be some wonderful ideas and thoughts you could give people that feel like, I'm just an average Jane or Joe? What can I do in the world? Everybody letting themselves feel that smallness instead of the largeness that we are.
Yeah, I'd say to not underestimate our value and our impact. I think we can walk into a room and smile, and we can shift the energy of a room, and to remind ourselves of that power that lies in each of us, I think is a good starting point. We're programmed with all sorts of limiting beliefs since we're young. And so to me, a big part of the shift was to become aware of those limiting beliefs, and then to unprogram myself and think bigger and different and have belief in myself. And so I encourage everyone to just know that every single person is important and can make a difference in people's lives. You don't need an organization. You don't need a lot of followers. You don't need a lot of money. And just finding what makes each of us happy and starting from there, because when we're in joy, when we're at peace, even just being in joy and peace, we can make someone else that's stressed out feel that. And that is an incredible gift to give to somebody. So yeah, I that's part of the community love part of our mission through the power of community love, is that each of us can impact people.
That's great. Are you looking to maybe expand the One Heart movement too, to maybe have like chapters in different, we talked about community. Some communities are different than other communities.
Yep.
And they, might strategize differently for that particular community or that demographic. Are you thinking maybe you might sort of become like a Surfrider Foundation where you might have chapters?
I'm definitely open to it for sure. Right now, it's been more focused on what we can get behind to have the impact, and just being very open-minded and open-hearted about that. But yes, to be able to expand and to grow, to have different chapters that can really hone in on the local space and would be very helpful.
Cool. And let's talk about nuts and bolts, because I've had a nonprofit and it is not an easy road to take. So in terms of like looking for support, how can people support the One Heart movement? Obviously sponsors and volunteers and different things. Are there particular things that you guys are looking for and asking for right now to grow the movement?
Yeah, right now there's a few different ways. One of these One Heart Handoff posts is one way to have your face and heart be shown to the world as someone who is for unity and for community. Another way is to support the forest and donating to plant trees in the forest, which will continue to have so many layers of impact on our world as well. So there's a place that people can donate on the website for that, outreaching to partners, strategic partners as well, so that we come together and see the impact that we can have. So people registering on our website and just getting in touch with us is a great way to start, so we can keep everyone updated with what we're doing and see how we can come together on them.
That's great. Do your parents get involved with you in any of these?
Absolutely. My mom has been to hospital giftings with me. My brother helped make posters for healthcare workers before. My father, incredible writer, but will help me go through and get my messaging right. And as I do interviews to support other people, I'm very grateful and blessed to have such a supportive family, and so much of what I do is because of the upbringing that they gave me and the things that I saw through them. So I always throw all the credit I can towards them.
I think that's great. I love so much when you can get your family and your friends involved in the things that you're in, and they get excited and impassioned and get behind you. So I wanted to ask that question. I think it's pertinent and important. Krista, is there anything in particular that you feel like is a message you'd want to share with people? We have this rapid fire question thing we're going to do. And one of the last questions, and I kind of feel like the urge to ask it now, is sort of, since we've talked about mental health and struggles and things specifically, if there were a specific nugget of advice that you could give to people that are thinking right now in this moment, wow, like I want to do this. I have a dream to do something more meaningful, more purpose driven, but I'm afraid, or I'm in it and I feel like giving up because it's so hard. Can you share what would be some advice for people to just keep on the path, on the steady?
Well, I think it starts with having a calm and clear mind. So if we could do things that can help bring us to this really relaxed state, things start to become more clear. what we see, what we feel. And so from there, I say learning to trust our intuition is really important. And sometimes that can be really hard when we have so many blocks, all these limiting beliefs that we were talking about in this programming. So to me, calming the mind, getting to a really centered place, and then consciously stepping away from the limiting beliefs and then following our intuition, believing in ourselves, is really the beginning of endless beautiful things that we can each do.
I love that. I love that more than you can even imagine, because I think that is probably the most crippling thing that humans can let ourselves be subjected to, is that limiting belief pattern. And so I'm really glad you addressed that.
I mean, I was totally in that boat. I thought that I was too old to do things at 18, at 20. And like, it's just like ridiculous, right? Like, like, oh, and it's so liberating when we can see that the only thing that's really holding us back is us.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then we can just acknowledge that and laugh about it and put it to the side and just dream big, think big, and allow ourselves that space. I think everyone can really surprise themselves.
Oh my
I
gosh.
surprise myself. It's fun, like, what do we have to lose, really?
Yeah.
And so I really encourage people to give themselves a chance.
I agree. And going back to something you said earlier, which I really love and resonate with, and I had another guest, my very first guest on the show, shout out to Kate Williams, CEO of 1% for the Planet, the idea too of seeing challenges as opportunities instead of threats. That's part of the happiness advantage, right? Like, instead of seeing it as this thing that's going to knock you down, that's horrible, that's awful, which is very easy for us to go there. I've done it probably more times than I'd like to admit, but to see it as an opportunity instead of a threat. You kind of said that earlier, which I think is another great nugget to remind people.
Yeah, growth doesn't happen when we're comfortable. It's when we're uncomfortable and we're going through something hard. So
yeah, I agree.
Super important.
Well, I have no doubt that you're going to make a great success, not just with the One Heart movement, because I think it really is speaking to what people need right now, but also with just what you're going to do in your career and how you're going to leverage your incredible gifts and talents for communications and reaching people right here where it counts. So thank you for doing all this. What was that?
As you are doing.
Thank you. I'm trying. I'm stepping into a dream way later in life than I ever thought I would too. So I completely resonate with what you were saying a minute ago about
you are an inspiration of it's never too late. All the blah, blah, blah. Who said, and I love seeing what you're doing and jumping into this later. You just having this show to me is a real inspiration to people.
Thank you so much. It means a lot coming from you. You're just, oh my God. I love you. Okay. So this is the fun part, but not that this wasn't all fun, but this is kind of the fun, different way we're going to get to know you. And I was integrating this new thing in the last couple of interviews of people giving me feedback. So thank you everyone for giving us all your feedback. Don't forget to go rate, review, and subscribe. I'm a terrible self-promoter and I keep forgetting to do that. But we're going to do this fun thing of rapid fire questions, which is kind of a different way to sort of get to know a little bit about Krista. And so I am going to ask you these and I want to see what you have to say. So you ready?
All right. I feel like I need to drink water and prepare.
You know what? I'm going to do that too. It's important to hydrate.
Oh, yes.
Everyone drink your water. Okay. First question. Here we go. What was the most memorable act of kindness that you did for someone or that someone did for you?
Wow. I mean, instantly, I feel how grateful I have so much to be grateful for. But I would say one of the most meaningful things that someone has done for me is to truly listen to what I have to say, to see my vision, feel my heart, and then take action to see how they could support. It's really special.
I think that's so important. You know what? That actually is really important to point out because we've spent so much time not really genuinely actively listening to people that I think that's a very pertinent point we need to call out. So I love that answer. Thank you. What is your favorite guilty pleasure?
Singing in the car. for sure.
Really?
Yes. I don't know how I could get through traffic and driving around for different places in LA if I didn't have music and I just sing my heart out. It feels really good.
Oh, that's awesome.
Meditation.
Well, then that's going to make me jump ahead then to this other question that I have. Like, if you had a theme song for your life, what would it be? And then you probably sing it in the car.
Gosh, it's definitely changed in different phases of my life. But right now, with the One Heart movement and all about community, I'd say "We Are Family" by Sister Sledge.
Oh, I love that song.
It's a little fun disco and fun vibe. It's such a positive message, and women like singing so powerfully. I just love it.
That's a great one. I'm gonna have to put that at the top of my shuffle on my iPod. Yes, I still have an iPod, if you can believe that. Okay, what is the one thing that inspires you to get up every day?
I'd say it's my really deep desire and a personal commitment to make as big of a positive impact as I can on this world. It's something I've been praying for since I was 6 and really wanting to. So I just stay focused on that, and it motivates me every day.
That's perfect. I love that. Okay, who is someone that you admire that you would call your purpose hero, and they can be either known or unknown?
Oh, that's easy for me. Oprah, hands down. I love her.
Bow to the Oprah. I completely agree.
Oprah. I mean, she changed my life in middle school after going through some of this, sexual assault type things young. After I learned of her story and all the hard things that she had gone through, I made this connection of how she used the challenges as a means to connect to people and her show and her interviews. And so, I've really admired that, and have tried to see how any challenge since that I've went through can be a way to connect with other people and to support others. So she's, about it.
Yeah. Wow. That's so true. I think that she really has that gift of turning that adversity into the conversations that we all need to hear. Right. That's great. Okay. A couple more, just fun ones. Finish this sentence. When I dance, I feel like
I'm free.
I love it. Me too. What is a fun food that you would like to try? If you haven't already.
I've had the opportunity to try a lot of foods, and especially living in Asia, Asian cuisine, but I haven't had a chance to try Moroccan food, which I hear is interesting with bold flavors and things. So I definitely would like to try that at some point.
Okay, I can get down with that. What is a cool, fun fact about you that your friends or family might not know?
Gosh, what do they not know about you?
Or just a fun fact about you that people should know.
Well, this is a new thing. So since the summer, I got this giant inflatable unicorn and pineapple in my family's pool. I work at my family's lake, and my favorite place to take phone calls is on the unicorn. I love it. And my favorite place to do text messaging is on this flat pineapple. Like I literally skid across the pool and text. It makes working fun for me.
I think that is so great. And for anyone who's actually watching on YouTube instead of listening, she has this amazing background of a rainbow, and clouds, which totally fits with the unicorn theme. So I love that. I think that's perfect. And the palm tree. Okay. What is the one thing that brings you joy? You may have already said it, but.
I mean, I could think of so many things like family and friends and work, passionate things. But I think if I really get to the root of it all, it's this deep sense of gratitude applied to everything.
I agree. And then the last question is if you could sum up in one word, if it's possible, but you don't have to, what it means to live your purpose or live in the world on purpose, what would that be?
To live in our purpose. Well, to me, love. If I could sum everything up in one word, it's love. Giving love, feeling love is so, love.
I completely agree with that 100%. And where there is love, there is no fear or darkness, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. KRISTA Kleiner, you are phenomenal.
Oh gosh. Thank you so much. You are phenomenal.
Thank you. And thank you so much for taking the time to do this little show here that I've created and tell your story, because I think it's really important for people to hear stories like yours that are very relatable and very real. And it ignites, I hope, what I call this flame inside people to seek and live their purpose. I can't thank you enough for being here. You're just an inspiration.
Oh, thank you so much. It is such a pleasure. Thank you for creating this beautiful platform to help share what we're doing and all the other people you have as guests, and to remind us of the impact we can have and why we're doing what we do, and to be seen and appreciated. It's really fuel to the work that I and I'm sure many others are doing. Your light shines so bright, and I am such a fan of you and the show. And again, anything I could do to help share your story would always be a pleasure.
Well, I'm taking you up on doing the reverse interview for my anniversary episode in November when we've been around 1 year. I'm so going to be looking forward to you turning the tables on me.
I'm so honored that you accepted that. I'm very excited.
Yeah, I am too. That's going to be awesome. Well, before we go, why don't we tell people and thank you for those kind words, by the way. It means so much to me. You have no idea. I work so hard on this and just want to know that I'm making a difference, and your words I will take into my heart because it means a lot. Before we go, why don't we tell people where they can find you so they know how to reach you and get involved in the One Heart movement, especially?
Absolutely. Our website is theoneheartmovement.org, and of course, get in touch through there. And our social page, Instagram is the most active, but it's the One Heart Movement. My personal one is KRISTA, KRISTA _Kleiner, Calvin Klein with ER. And yeah, those are the best ways to get in touch. And please do, if you have ideas of good things that we can contribute to, or if you would like to get involved, just to be in touch, or even showing your heart to us so we could share it with our community and spread good vibes would be really special. So
I was just going to say, we're going to have your hashtag for sure on the website and on social media. And for everyone who is watching, you get your little heart up there with your little hands.
Yay.
So cute. And we will love to see you. This is such an important movement. I think Krista's right. Love is the one thing in the world that can help unite and heal. And she's going to do that with the One Heart movement. So KRISTA Kleiner, thank you again.
Thank you so much, Liza. We are doing that. We are living love right now and spreading this message. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Definitely. And thank you. And everybody, thank you always for coming back to A World on Purpose and just learning all these incredible stories of these people that I truly, truly believe the more you listen to them, the more you will feel. If you're lacking any meaning in your life, or you're feeling like you're happy with your life and it's great, but there might be something a little bit more that you feel like you want to do, hopefully we can ignite that purpose flame inside you and inspire you to take that next step to live in a world on purpose. I'm your host, Alyssa Fisher-Harris. Thank you for coming back. And don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. That's the part I don't love, but I'm going to ask. And thank you so much. We will see you soon. Thank you for taking this journey into a world on purpose with our incredible guests. To learn more about our amazing guests and their inspiring purpose-driven work, please go to aworldonpurpose.com. Don't forget to look at our call to action of the week to mobilize your desire for purpose into action. A World on Purpose can be found on Apple Podcasts and all the major podcast platforms, and the video version can be found on YouTube. If what you heard today inspires you, please write a review and like and share on the platform of your choice. We'd love to also hear from you and learn your pivot to purpose and the meaningful work that you do that lifts humanity. Send your stories to info@aworldonpurpose.com. I'd like to thank our World on Purpose team for making this show a reality. Once again, I'm your host, Alyssa Fisher-Harris. Thank you for tuning into A World on Purpose. I look forward to seeing you soon.